Welcome, listener, in the shadows. We bring stories into the light. Join me as we explore the encounters no one speaks of and the things that watch from the dark. You were never supposed to see this, but since you have, you might as well wear it. From the vaults of the shadows, a new collection of unsettling apparel and artifacts pulled straight from the stories that were never meant to surface. Soft, worn-in shirts and hoodies that feel like something you dug out of a locked trunk in an abandoned ranger station. This isn't just merch, it's evidence. Phantom Company Day 1. The briefing the rain hit the tarmac in a steady rhythm as the transport plane taxied to a stop. The air smelled of wet concrete and fuel, a familiar scent that clung to everything in the forward operating base. Sergeant David Cole adjusted the straps of his rucksack and stepped off the plane, boots sinking slightly into the damp ground. The rest of his team followed: Lieutenant Harris, Corporal Mason, and Privates Rodriguez and Tate. Hardened men, veterans of countless excursions into hostile territory. They had been called in for a Black Ops mission, no questions asked. That was the nature of their work. Go in, get the job done, and get out before anyone knew they were even there. But this mission felt different. The details were thin. Their objective: to infiltrate an abandoned research facility deep in enemy territory and extract any remaining intel. Ghost site, Mason muttered as they huddled under a makeshift briefing tent, going over the details. Why the hell will we be looking for scraps in a place that's been dead for years? Harris exhaled slowly, tapping the map spread out on the table. Intel suggests something still active. Satellite imaging picked up movement, but there's no record of anyone occupying the site for nearly a decade. Rodriguez scoffed. What ghosts? Cole shook his head, staring at the aerial photos. The buildings looked hollowed out, windows gaping like empty eye sockets. But there was something off. A distortion around the edges of the photos, like the land itself was rejecting them. Something's out there, Harris said, and we're going to find out what. Day 2, the approach by nightfall. They were deep in the woods, moving quietly through the dense undergrowth. The facility was another few clicks away, but something felt wrong. The air was thick, heavy with a scent none of them could place. It wasn't just the usual damp earth and decay, it was metallic, almost like blood. The deeper they moved, the more the forest began to feel off. The trees grew twisted, gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. At some point, they realized there was no sound. No insects, no distant calls of wildlife. Only their own breathing, the rustling of their gear, and the crunch of boots on damp earth. Then Mason stopped. Did you see that? Cole turned to where he was looking. A figure, just at the edge of their night vision's range. Tall, motionless. Then in the blink of an eye, it was gone. They swept the area, but there was nothing. No tracks, no broken branches. We keep moving, Harris ordered, voice steady but clipped. Stay sharp. Night 2, the facility. They reached the perimeter fence just after midnight. The place was in worse shape than expected. Collapsed walls, overgrown vegetation reclaiming the concrete. It looked like nature was trying to erase it. Inside, the building was eerily intact. The lights, somehow, still flickered in places, casting long, stretching shadows. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the silence became. Then they found the first body. It was recent, too recent. A soldier, clad in a uniform that none of them recognized, his body twisted unnaturally, as if something had crushed him from the inside. His face was frozen in horror, mouth open in a silent scream. The hell happened to him? Rodriguez whispered. Mason crouched down, inspecting the corpse. No gunshot wounds, no stab wounds. It's like something broke him from the inside. Then the radio crackled to life. A voice, weak, barely above a whisper. Help us! Every hair on Cole's body stood on end. The voice had come from the static of their secured channel. Who the hell was that? Tate muttered, checking his comms. No one else should be out here. Then, from somewhere deep in the corridors ahead of them, they heard it, a sound that sent ice through their veins. A wet, guttural clicking, like bones grinding together. And it was getting closer. Day 3, the truth. They moved fast, sweeping through the facility, finding signs of struggle everywhere. Blood splattered across the walls, claw marks dug deep into steel. Then they found the research logs. Project Phantom. The facility hadn't just been for weapons development. They had been working on something unnatural, a biological experiment, something that wasn't supposed to exist. The last entry was chilling. Containment compromised. No survivors expected. Do not engage. Do not attempt retrieval. Burn it all. Then Mason pointed at something scratched into the wall beneath the terminal. Still here. The lights flickered. Then the shadows moved. Night 3, the escape, it came for them. At first, it was just a shape in the darkness, wrong, shifting, flickering as if it was struggling to maintain form. Then it lunged. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the confined space. Bullets tore through it, but it barely reacted. Its limbs stretched unnaturally, its eyes, if they could even be called that, were black voids absorbing the light. It screamed, a shrill, unnatural sound that clawed into their minds. They ran. Down the corridors, through the maze of ruined hallways, but it was always behind them. The walls seemed to shift, the facility warping around them. Then they found it, the emergency blast doors, the last chance. Harris and Tate worked on overriding the locks while the rest of them held the line. Rodriguez screamed as it grabbed him, pulling him into the darkness. A single gunshot echoed, then silence. The doors finally groaned open. They didn't look back. They ran into the forest, the air thick with an unnatural fog. The sound of something pursuing them never ceased. By the time they reached the extraction point, only 3 of them remained. As the helicopter lifted off, Cole looked back at the tree line. The facility was gone, vanished, as if it had never been there at all. Day 4 debriefing and denial. The helicopter touched down at the forward operating base just as the sun began to rise. The world outside was bathed in the soft glow of morning, but none of them felt its warmth. Cole, Harris, and Mason stepped onto the tarmac, their bodies stiff from exhaustion, their minds heavier still. They were greeted by silence. No welcoming officers, no debriefing team. Just a single man in a suit standing at the edge of the landing zone, waiting. "Follow me," the man said. His voice was devoid of emotion, clinical in a way that made Cole's skin crawl. Inside the main facility, they were led down a sterile hallway, deeper than any of them had been before. They were seated in a windowless room, bright and cold, with only a single camera in the corner watching them. Then the questioning began. "What did you see?" Cole clenched his fists. "You already know." The man showed no reaction. "Tell me anyway." Harris exhaled sharply, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "We lost Rodriguez and Tate. There was something in there. Something not human." Still, no reaction. The man simply nodded and wrote something on his clipboard. Mason slammed his hand on the table. "You sent us into that place knowing damn well what was in there. What the hell was Project Phantom?" A pause. The man set his pen down. "That information is classified." Cole gritted his teeth. "We barely made it out. That thing, it wasn't just some lab accident, was it?" The man's expression remained neutral, unreadable. "You were never there. You never saw anything." Mason laughed bitterly. "Bullshit." The man stood, gathering his documents. "You will be reassigned. Your official report will state that Rodriguez and Tate were lost in an explosion due to an accidental detonation of old ordnance. There was no facility, no mission. And if you speak of this again," he leaned in slightly, his voice like ice, "there will be consequences." Harris stiffened. "Are you threatening us?" The man only smiled, cold and thin. "I don't need to." Day 5. The vanishing. By the time they were released, it was as if they had been erased. Their mission records were wiped, their gear confiscated. The bodies of Rodriguez and Tate were never recovered. No one in command acknowledged the mission at all. Back in their quarters, Cole sat on the edge of his bunk, staring at the floor. Harris paced the room, every muscle in his body tense. Mason just stared at the wall, his face pale. Then the lights flickered. For a brief second, the air felt thick again, the metallic scent of blood filling their noses. A shadow slithered at the edges of the room, there but not there. Cole looked up at the others. "It's not over, is it?" Mason whispered. The door rattled. And then, from the radio on the table, a weak voice crackled through the static, Rodriguez's voice. "Help us." The screen on the monitor across the room flickered to life. Footage from their mission. And in the last frame, as the static rolled over the screen, they saw it, standing in the doorway behind them, watching, waiting, and then darkness. Day 6, no escape. Cole barely slept. Every time his eyes shut, he saw Rodriguez's face, half decayed, his lips moving in silence, the same garbled plea crawling through the static, "Help us." But Rodriguez was dead. Tate was dead. And yet the radio had spoken. The monitor had shown them something that shouldn't exist. Harris had spent the night disassembling his sidearm, cleaning it with ritualistic precision, refusing to talk about what they had heard. Mason hadn't left his bunk, staring at the wall with bloodshot eyes. Cole rubbed his face, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle deep into his bones. "We need to get out of here," Mason scoffed. "And go where? We're not just soldiers. Man, we're owned." "They won't let us go," Harris finally spoke. "They can try." Then the lights flickered again. The three of them froze. It was subtle, a short blink of darkness. But Cole felt it, something shifting, like the air in the room had changed, like the walls weren't as solid as they had been a second ago. The radio crackled. "You let us die," Rodriguez's voice. But it wasn't just him this time. There was something underneath it, an echoing, wrong distortion, like a second voice was speaking just a half second behind his words. Mason stood up fast, knocking over his chair. "No, no, no, no." Cole grabbed the radio, twisting the knob. Static. Then the lights died. Darkness swallowed the room in an instant, so thick it felt suffocating. Cole heard Mason curse, heard the sharp scrape of Harris drawing his knife. And then the breathing, heavy, wet, right behind them. Cole's fingers found his flashlight and clicked it on, casting a narrow beam into the room. The door was open, and in the hallway just past the threshold, a figure stood. Tall, motionless, its limbs too long, its joints bending wrong. And its face, Rodriguez, or what was left of him. The skin on his face was loose, sagging in unnatural places. His lips pulled back in something that should have been a smile, but was too wide, too stretched. His eyes were wrong, hollow and filled with something that gleamed in the dark, something alive, writhing just beneath the surface. "Help us." The voice slithered through the air, and this time Cole felt it inside him, pressing against his ribs, winding around his spine. Then it stepped forward. Mason yanked his pistol free and fired. The shot shattered the silence, the muzzle flash lighting up the room for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Cole to see what was standing behind Rodriguez. A shape, tall as the ceiling, all arms, no face. Then the lights snapped back on. Rodriguez was gone, the door was closed, and the bullet hole in the wall was the only proof anything had happened at all. Day 7. The cover-up. They didn't leave their quarters. They barely spoke. Harris paced, Mason cleaned his gun, Cole watched the door. At 900 hours, a knock. They all reached for their weapons. A voice from the other side, calm, emotionless. "You're being transferred. Pack your things." Cole's stomach twisted. "Transferred where?" Silence. Then the voice again. "Your records are sealed. Your mission never happened. You have 30 minutes. Boots echoed down the hall as whoever it was walked away. Mason exhaled shakily. "They're making us disappear." Cole's mind was racing. They weren't being reassigned. They were being erased. "Then we don't go," Harris said. "We find a way out of here." Now, he pulled open the footlocker beneath his bed, grabbing extra magazines, rations. "We slip out before they come back." Cole wasn't sure if escape was possible. This was a military base, locked down tighter than a prison. But whatever had followed them out of that place, whatever they had brought back, was worse than any punishment command could dish out. Mason nodded. "Screw it. I'm not dying in a cell." Cole reached for his gear. "Then we move fast." They packed quickly, every moment stretching like static in the air. Cole felt watched, like something was pressing against the edges of the room. And then, just as they were about to step out, the lights went out again. But this time they didn't come back on. A siren wailed somewhere in the base. Over the radio, a voice hissed through the static. Not Rodriguez anymore, not Tate. Something else. "You brought it with you." And down the hallway in the darkness, the sound of something moving, not walking, crawling. Cole turned to the others. "Run." Day 7. The escape. The hallway was a tomb of darkness, the emergency siren wailing somewhere deep within the base, distant but urgent, like the heartbeat of a dying animal. Cole gritted his teeth, gripping his rifle as they moved, each step swallowed by the overwhelming silence between the alarms. The air was thick, suffocating, carrying the scent of something old, something rotting. Then the sound again, a wet, skittering noise, like something with too many limbs pulling itself along the walls. Cole flicked on his rifle-mounted flashlight, sweeping the beam down the corridor. It illuminated nothing, just empty space and steel walls. But the sound didn't stop. Mason was breathing too hard. Where the hell is everyone? That was the worst part. The base had gone silent. No guards, no personnel, no one responding to the alarms. It was as if the entire facility had been abandoned in an instant. Harris signaled them forward, rifle up. Keep moving. They advanced through the corridors, following the emergency exit signs. But every hallway looked the same, sterile, lifeless. The kind of place that was built to keep secrets buried. And then a thump, hard enough to shake the ceiling tiles, sending dust drifting down. Mason froze. What the hell was that? Then another. Closer. Harris pointed upward. Above us. Cole tilted his rifle, following Harris's aim. The ceiling panels were vibrating, a slow, deliberate movement passing above them, like something dragging itself across the ventilation ducts. And then, through the grates, he saw it. A hand. Not human, too many fingers, elongated, bone-thin, clutching the metal grate like a spider. Cole's breath hitched. Move, now. Mason didn't hesitate. They bolted, sprinting down the corridor as the thing above them followed, the ceiling panels buckling under its weight. Then it dropped. The sound was unbearable, a wet, shuddering impact as something heavy slammed into the floor behind them. Cole spun, raising his rifle, but the thing was already moving. A blur of limbs, too fast for something its size. It had no face, only the shape of one, twisted, shifting as if it were trying to become something recognizable. It lunged. Harris fired first. The muzzle flash burst in the dark, the sharp crack of gunfire echoing through the halls. Mason joined in, unloading half a mag into the thing as it twisted unnaturally, bending its torso back farther than any spine should allow. Cole fired last. The bullets tore through it, but it didn't stop. It didn't bleed. It only laughed. Not a sound that came from its throat, but from the walls, from the radio on Cole's vest, the same distorted voice, the one that had spoken through Rodriguez. "We see you." And then it disappeared, not retreated, not ran. It simply folded into the darkness, vanishing into the flickering lights. Mason was shaking. "We need to get out. We need to get the fuck out of here." Cole swallowed hard. Agreed. Nearest evac point. Harris checked his map, sweat dripping down his temple. Garage level, 2 floors down. Cole gripped his rifle tighter. Then we don't stop running. Day 7, the revelation they reached the stairwell in record time, barreling through the rusting door. The emergency lights flickered, casting deep shadows along the steps. Mason hesitated. What if it's down there? Cole didn't look back. What if it's up here? That was all the convincing they needed. They descended in a rush, boots clanging against metal steps. The further down they went, the colder it became. A biting, unnatural chill that seeped into their bones. By the time they reached the basement level, they could see their breath. Then they saw the doors, lined up along the hallway. Massive, reinforced steel, each one marked with a different number, each one scratched from the inside. Mason stepped closer, aiming his flashlight at one of the plaques bolted to the wall beside the doors. The words were rusted but still legible. Project Dusk Containment. Cole's stomach dropped. "This is it," Harris muttered. "This is where it started." Mason's hand trembled as he pointed to the scratches on the nearest door. "They didn't keep it in here." His voice was barely a whisper. It was trying to get out. A silence stretched between them, then a deep, rattling breath, not theirs, behind them. Cole turned just as the lights died. The door at the end of the hallway creaked open, and something stepped through. Day 7, no one leaves gunfire. Cole didn't hesitate. He squeezed the trigger and let loose a full burst, the muzzle flash illuminating the nightmare before them. A mass of shifting flesh, too many limbs, a face that flickered between familiarity and horror. Rodriguez, Tate, Mason's own mother's face for a split second, and then nothing human at all. Mason screamed as it lunged, its arms splitting like tree branches, reaching for them. Harris grabbed a grenade, yanking the pin. Down! Cole dove just as the explosion rocked the hallway, the shockwave tearing through the corridor. The creature howled, an unnatural, glitching sound as its form flickered like a broken projection. The smoke cleared. The door was gone. So was the creature, but the scratches along the walls were deeper now. Cole hauled himself up, coughing. Garage, now. They ran. They burst through the last security door and into the garage bay where a single armored Humvee sat waiting. The overhead lights flickered wildly, the sirens still blaring. Mason yanked open the driver's door. Get in! Cole jumped in the passenger seat, Harris in the back. The moment the engine roared to life, the radio crackled, and a voice whispered, not from the speakers, but from inside Cole's head. You can't run. The rear garage door started to close. Mason floored it. The Humvee shot forward, tires screeching against concrete. The door was halfway down when they reached it. Cole ducked. And then they were through. Out. Gone. The base disappeared behind them, swallowed by the darkness of the forest. The sirens cut off abruptly, as if the place had never existed. As if it had always been a graveyard. They didn't stop driving, didn't speak. Because even as they left it behind, even as the night swallowed them whole, Cole knew. They had escaped the base, but they hadn't escaped it. You made it back for now, but the things in the dark never truly leave, do they? They watch, they wait, and perhaps they remember you now too. If you want to hear more, if you dare to listen again, step back into the shadows. Like the video. Subscribe, but know this, some doors once opened do not close so easily.